This is Galactical Guardians 22, and I did not have any intention of doing this issue because I had it all planned out. I would show issue 20 to evidence what the series is like, and then I would do, a week or so later, issue 26 to introduce each of the main characters. It was a good plan, but I got 4 things I can talk about here, and 3 of them are actually about this comic. First is, do you reckon, this might seem a daft question because it blatantly is, but do you reckon that this cover is a homage to Star-Lord's first story in Defenders 28? On the surface, yes, absolutely. It's the exact same idea. But then, when you look at the specifics, it's not really directly copying the Defenders cover much. The 2 Star-Lords are in different poses, although positioned the same, and the 4 sequences shown in the background. On the Defenders cover, it is action happening at different places with the 4 Defenders characters, whereas on the Galactical Guardians, it is 4 members of the team, and there is now to say that all 5 of them are not all together here. The placement of the 4 characters in the background is also slightly different between the 2 covers. What do you reckon? Slightly off tribute or unoriginal rip-off? You decide. Right, so this is issue 22, and this begins a story that never truly starts because writer and artist Michael Valentino is fired soon. So we never get to see this story actually play out or anything happen with it. But it was to be the Dark Star-Lord saga. Star-Lord, he gans evil. This issue is the beginning of it, and it's also the only part of it, truly. The intended storyline is quickly resolved in 3 pages of the first issue with a new writer taking over. In that, Star-Lord dies and he is reborn as a tiny little baby. This was our Dark Star-Lord design, and it feels more familiar to me than the story itself. I think this was the design that made it onto a bunch of trading cards and maybe the Master Edition Andy books. I picked this issue out when I went digging for what issues of this series I had. I went looking through what I call my shit pile, which is actually not a pile exclusively of shit comics, but a pile of mostly shit comics. Truthfully, it is a big 3-foot pile of comics that didn't fit into any of my collections. It is random issues I have gotten, like the 5 issues of this series, or that one with Captain Marbles, the real one, Biffy Baston, fighting Lunatic. A series like this isn't shit. I just have no intention of getting a full collection of it. I have the trade paperbacks from 8 years ago and I am fine with them. A lot of my more random and asinine comics come straight from that pile. 90% of those new comics I bought all went straight on that pile. Nearly every Jerry Jones comic is on that pile. I have 4 Kurt Busey issues left that I have been saving for a rainy day. They are on that pile. It is a big pile and it often falls over. Back to the comic. This issue sees the team fighting one of those groups that I mentioned in the other video. Galactical Guardians have at least 3 recurrent bad guy teams that are filled with even more characters to overwhelm you. This team here is led by the worst of them, which is a character called Rancor, who is like a Wolfman wannabe. You're meant to think that she's like his granddaughter or something. The rest of her team are bland. All 3 of those bad guy teams are filled with blandness. But I take blandness over this Wolfman copycat. And with a team full of bland people, it makes the ones that have slight character beats seem a lot more interesting. Like on one of the teams, there is a woman who is a love interest for one of the Galactical Guardians. And there is another one who is the only other surviving member of one of their races. And little bits like that make them feel less like boring cardboard cutouts for the Galactical Guardians to fight. This is issue 22, so we are also building to the big issue 25, which likely put the Dark Star-Lord stuff on hold, because in issue 25 we are having an encounter with Galactus Man. There is also an ongoing plotline in the book about a church that worships Beyonder Man and Beyonder Man's child. That is for all you Secret Wars II fans out there. This Scroll Girl here, Replica, she is one of my favourite members of this Galactical Guardians team. And the reason for that is because there was an issue where she shape-shifted into the form of a table, and it made me laugh. Since we are not going to get to see this character in issue 26, issue 26 is an originy issue retelling the group's first appearance. And this guy didn't come along until at least 10 issues into this series. This is an Unhuman called Talon, and he is not the best character, but one thing that I think is neat is that he is gay in a time where not every character was gay, and it's not treated like the defining characteristic of them. It's just handled like in real life. His gayness only comes up when he is faced with something where it is relevant, like a woman flirting with him. No AIDS plots with Talon. They actually expanded this team quite a lot in this series. Talon and Replica were new additions. He has not shown up in either of these issues I've looked at, but Firestorm was one of the first characters they brought in. And of course, there is Aardman, Wonder Man. I do think that it is a shame Michael Valentine got fired. And all this Dark Star-Lord stuff goes nowhere. We do get a cute little next issue teaser that is a parody of the logo of that Wonder Woman crossover I have never read. I am not sure if this video's purpose was to continue my agenda of letting people know that this run was actually somewhat of a hidden treasure. I feel talking about this story never happening, or all the big teams of bland characters they fight, is more off-putting than encouraging. This series started in 1990, and it isn't until the tail end of this run that it feels like it is moving with the 90s. It feels like a book from 1990 for most of its stretch. It has got some dense text. The art falls more towards traditional than flashy. And it has got a set of characters that are not really cool or extreme, but they are fun, and as of this series, quite interesting superheroes to read about. I will give this issue, from my shit pile, a 7 thumbs up. Having a nosebleed.